The Nick and Matt Show.
It was rated 1,075 with Chris going 19 under on that round. That is seemingly beyond perfect, and he finished with 2 eagles. Now, did you see what happened on the internet after he did that? There was the like, hey, why is nobody talking about this? And then there's people that are like, it's obvious why nobody's talking about it, because par is extremely soft. The eagles that he was throwing were like 300 or 400 foot holes. Like, so I guess where we're taking this now, and this is our segue, because we're starting to get better by our fourth week. You see, we're transitioning now into our first topic, which is par too easy in disc golf? And that's a very blanket statement. Let's break it down. Let's talk about all the avenues of that conversation. So in a general sense, do you feel comfortable, Nick, to say that par is too easy in disc golf?
1,000%. Yeah, it's way too easy in disc golf. The reason I say that is there are some courses that, yes, the par is very spot on to how it should be, but there are other courses that really cater to the new people coming into the sport, and they're kind of feel-good courses. Like, you go out there, you shoot really well, it's a feel-good, like, I'm trying to think, up in Maine, nothing against Maine courses. They're very, very fun to play, but Maine has a very soft par at a lot of their courses because there's so many families that go and play these courses, and it's better for someone to walk off a course when they're new, shooting 7 or 8 down rather than 7 or 8 over. It's a feel-good moment to be able to do that. But for, I think, a professional standpoint and an amateur standpoint, I'm more curious what Chris thinks of that round. You know what I mean?
He knows.
Yeah, he knows. But like, I think a lot of people say this par is irrelevant. It's how low you can shoot on a course. It doesn't matter what the par is. You're trying to take the least amount of strokes. You're trying to play the least amount of disc golf to win a tournament. So does it really matter what the par is? No, I don't think so. But it is cool when you see tournaments like Ledgestone, where they play Northwood Golds. That course looks really freaking hard. And I think, Hunter, you've been there, so you can probably relay on that. But what were like the hot rounds? I think Ricky had the hot round in that course last year, and it was maybe just double digits on it, which is pretty insane because usually hot rounds at Memorial every year is like 16 or 17 down. That's insane. But I don't know, that's a different course. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I think Northwood's, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if you have it pulled up, but I think that 1 over par is like a scratch round. Like, that's 1,000 rated round at Northwood's Gold.
Exactly.
So so let me kind of bring it in, because that was a great intro, Nick. I think talking like the differences and where par is and how it is and all that. Like, can I read a few quotes here that I found? And this is the game of golf. So you're going to be like, Matt's obsessed. Is golf harder than disc golf? But like, as far as comparisons go, has the same name in it. People are obviously interested in, or the reason why would we say par is easy? Why would we say par is easy? Because we're basing it off of what we know about the other game, which is ball golf, traditional golf. Can I just read this quote from Arnold Palmer? And this was back 1958. He was a Masters champion back then. And here's what he said. If you mean someone asked him, will the perfect game ever happen? Do you think there can ever be a perfect game in golf? And this is what he says. If you mean the perfect game within the realm of probability, maybe it will be played. That would mean hitting 18 perfect tee shots and 18 perfect second shots and landing in the cup in no more than 1 or 2 putts, but no one is ever going to birdie 18 holes. Okay, so and there's a million quotes here on this answer to this game. So I guess where I'm going with this is we're basing, is par easy or not, on the question because of what we know about golf. How many people finish in a golf tournament? And let's go back to Worlds a long time ago with Dave Felberg. He finished like almost 100 under par. Oh, yeah. Maybe that was after like 7 rounds.
I was going to say, I think they played like 7 or 8 rounds back then. It was insane. And a final 9.
So, I mean, again, that's a different topic on how many rounds and all that. But I guess where I'm going with this topic is like, we're basing, is it easy or not, off of what we know about the other game. So for instance, up here in central Massachusetts, where I'm from, where Maple Hill is, there actually used to be a really cool extra activity after the Vibram Open. People would go and play a game called Candlepin Bowling. And we would just call it bowling growing up because that's what was available to us. but it's different than 10 pin in the sense that like the pins are shaped differently, and everyone's going to comment, oh, this is duck pin bowling. No, it's not duck pin. Duck pin is like the really short stubby ones. Candle pin is almost the same size, but they're just not tapered as much, like with the bowl at the end.
They're more skinny the whole way up.
And you get to bowl 3 balls similar to the size of like bocce ball. Okay. So it's like, it is different. Instead of 2 larger size, you get 3 of the bocce ball size, and you can literally just whip them down there. I say whip them. It is a different game, but here's the deal. I used to always get bothered, and maybe I'm just someone who gets bothered easily. I don't know, Nick, but I would always get bothered because people would say like, oh, I don't like candlepin because it's so hard. And I'm like, but is it hard? And I guess I'm just looking at it standalone as a game. I'm going, it's its own game. It's literally its own game, but you're comparing it to using larger balls and knocking more down. Okay. Like at one time. And if you do that, then you would say which one gets more pins down. I can agree with you. You're going to get more pins down with the 10 pin. But if we're talking about candle pin, it's a matter of, I don't think the question should be, do I get more pins down? Does that mean it's harder or not harder? It's a different game. And so where I'm going with this is, maybe you say I'm devil's advocate, golf and disc golf, they're a different game. And just because one shoots more under par than the other doesn't necessarily mean that par is easy. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be for the sport. Maybe it's supposed to be, you, instead of calling par like the average or what you should shoot for, maybe like birdie is the average in what you should shoot for in the game of disc golf. So I don't know. What do you have any thoughts on that, either Hunter or Nick?
Yeah, I think part of the whole question stems from issue that we base par on golf. So like golf par is based on like a par 3. It takes 1 shot onto the green and then an estimate of 2 putts. Mm-hmm. That's where golf par is. Disc golf, if you're on the green, it should only take 1 putt. So I think the question is almost, should disc golf par use the same logic and turn what is now a par 3 into a par 2. The issue with that is you're never going to birdie because you got to ace it.
Yeah.
So I think that's where like it's kind of confusing because our pars clearly got to be different somehow. To me, going back to like what par is. Nick was talking about. Golf, if you're on the green, but Nick.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hear.
No, sorry, that was a technical difficulty.
I'm doing my own technical thing. Keep going.
Oh no, sorry about that. I thought it might have been on my end after last night. I just think something's got to go wrong, you know.
Panicking.
But back to what Nick was saying, where like there's some courses that are just naturally easy for beginners. I think the route disc golf should go is every course should have an am par and a pro par. So
interesting.
There's a lot of par 4s for ams that are just tough par 3s for pros. And they're little tweener holes, and it's a big issue in disc golf because a pro's going to birdie it every time and an am's going to four it every time. So which one's right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that would be a good separation, is maybe the Pro Tour has its own par type of a thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's funny, actually, they kind of did that at Waco this year. They made the par more realistic to what it should be. And
wait a second. To what it should be. What do you mean? Like clarify that.
Like the holes that were
because if I go play that hole, am I going to think that par is correct?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
As a 930 rated
and
player.
even the pros, like hole 18 last year at Waco, which I think is hole 13 on the regular. Anyways, yeah, hold on. It'd be hole 13 during the Pro Tour event and something like that. It's right before you get out of the woods. Last year it played as a par 5. This year it played as a par 4, and a very, very large majority of the field parred or bogeyed it. Like there wasn't a lot of birdies on it. And so this year's par was more difficult. Like they upped the par by a couple strokes this year, and you could see that from the rounds. I think the hot round was 13 down, or Colton shot 14 down, one or the other. There was something around that, but
something like that.
It's something like that. But yeah, they made the par more to what the pros, kind of like what Hunter was saying. They made the par more of what the pros would be doing. Now, if they changed it back to what it was in 2019, then I think it would make sense for the more casual people who go out and play that course.
Yeah. So I think, and you kind of brought it up in the intro here, but par, and actually you just brought it up too, Hunter, like maybe par is not, it's, again, I'll say it's not the same sport. And so it can be something different. And I think as we're growing, I don't know if you want to call them growing pains, but like there are people that are going to look at it. And do you think it's a bad perception for disc golf? Is it a bad perception to the pro world? Like, I mean, I'm talking like professional. Okay, disc golf's professional and there's no dig there, but I'm talking the 3 major or 4 major sports. Like, would it ever be easy to get compared with them because golf is in our name and we're shooting 40 under at a tournament? Like, people are going to do the same thing I told you about the candle pin and the 10 pin. They're just going to be like, that just seems way too easy. Which goes back to the previous episode. If you want to check that out, it's on, is golf actually harder than disc golf, or are we relating it to competition as well as par? And I think that's it. Here I am going back to it again. So let's stay on topic. So people up in Maine are commenting right now saying they feel good about their under par shooting. I'm not gonna lie, like I've played a par 5 that was like 230 feet in Maine. And I'm not digging Maine. Like they have private courses a lot. Like actually, I think really, 99 and a half.
Really beautiful courses.
I think they might have literally 2 public courses in the whole state or something. It's incredible. It's all private scene. And the owners are not wrong to think that families are going to enjoy and feel better about themselves, because what you understand about par is that that's what you want to shoot. So if you have everybody like trying to shoot a par 3 on a hole that they've never played before, a family, they're just going to be like, this is really, really, really hard. So
put it in a little lake and it's a par 5.
So as far as like, there's no, actually, you know what? We were going to try to have on, and not that we got him, but John Houck, of course, designer tonight, to discuss some of his thoughts on this, because if you look at ball golf, and here I go back to it again, if you look at ball golf, there's standards for how long holes are for certain pars. They'll be like, hey, especially in the junior divisions, because I do a lot with kids disc golf, we try to look at like, what's the standard they use there to how we roll that over, because that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Par by division, as you mentioned, amateur and pro. Juniors, you can't throw them on Maple Hill hole 1 and say, hey, this is a par 4 for an 8-year-old. Like it's literally it's
a par 25.
No, it's literally like, yeah, it's like a par 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And so is that okay? Like, or you know what I mean? There's so much to be discussed about par. It's relevant to the competitors at hand. That's my opinion. I think it has to be relevant to the competitors at hand. Who was it designed for? Right? And course design comes in extremely. Are you helping Paul at all, or is that solely Paul's project down there? I think it's Bedford or something, the disc golf course he's designing.
I've helped on and off.
Okay.
Some. It's been mainly Paul though. And
so do you have any insight? And we always ask about Paul to anybody who has the connections. Do you have any insight into how he's thinking there? Is he creating it for like a park family friendly, or is it going to be like pro championship, or they're going to be multiple and the pars will be different based off of that?
It's kind of a mix of all of that. I think the biggest thing, the majority of the pars will be the same, but there's different tees.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it's brought in. So if it's a 200 foot for an AM par 3, it might be a 350 foot for the pro.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that.
I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
No, keep going.
No, I was going to say, I remember going to the course a couple times and talking to, is it Kenny? Yeah, so talking to Ken and talking about the design with Paul and everything like that. And eventually they kind of want to have 3 layouts there, 3 different sets of tee pads. I think it's going to be 1 basket for the most part, but then 3 different tee pads, an amateur tee pad, pro tee pad, and then the tournament tee pad. So, which actually I think is a really cool idea. The course is really well designed and it's a beautiful piece of property. And, but yeah, I think having 2 different layouts there is going to be, at least 2 different layouts there is going to be pretty awesome.
And so I kind of just had this, I don't want to call it an epiphany. That's huge. But I had this thought process where I think you said something, Hunter, about Paul's creating it with the same pars, different tee pads. I think in my brain, here we go again. Went right back to golf. And you play a round of golf, and what do you have? The par, and I can't say this for every course, but the par stays the same. And you get juniors, women's, and then you get like white, blue, yellow, whatever, however they do it, to make the hole more difficult. I think, why don't more disc golf courses, and I'm saying it too early in the game here, but more disc golf courses, and I know it's probably funds, finances, I don't want to bash on the people who are creating courses, but like, that I think is the answer. I mean, because that's what we do for our junior events right now. We design the hole, we walk out to a par 3, and we say, is this a par 3 for an 8-year-old? And then we'll go, is this a par 3 for a 10-year-old? A 12, because there's 12 different junior divisions. And so you have to literally each hole And that's where experience comes in. And I'll just say we're really excited. This is kids disc golf here. We're really excited to work with Nate Heinold next year to run Junior Worlds. So we're going to bring our experience there to do that. But par, it's a very interesting topic. We've kind of, I don't want to say exhausted it because there's so much to talk about. Do you have any closing thoughts on it? We're going to move on to our next point.
Well, just really quick, bringing it back to golf like we always do. I went out and played with Simon. My one birdie of the round was on a par 5. I actually was on the green in 2 and 2-putted for my birdie. In golf, your par 5s are your easiest holes, then go your par 4s, and then I think the par 3s. When in disc golf, it's exactly opposite. The par 3s are what we're trying to birdie, deuce or die on, when the par 5s are the holes where usually if you get an eagle on a par 5, it's really impressive. So I just think the way that we design courses, and obviously a lot of courses that were designed back when technology in disc golf was not nearly what it is today. So in a sense, some of our courses are too short, but that's an ever-growing process of now we got to kind of tiger-proof disc golf. We got to make the courses bigger
They said that after Maple Hill, or when Paul did the Vibram Open, they're like, we got to tiger-proof this thing because
Jamie Thomas brought it up when I think they were playing the European Masters out at Yarva, and they talked about, do we really need to tiger-proof? Because you have people like Simon, Garrett, Paul, Ricky, Eagle, all these guys who just absolutely smash. But then you're putting them on courses where, what's your longest hole? 700 feet, but then your average hole is 300 to 400. They're parking those almost every single time. It's insane.
So I think two closing thoughts. Someone brought up on the live chats the idea of getting rid of par and playing by rating. Now, I've actually thought down this road because it bothers me to think about par and all that, especially again with all the junior divisions and all that. Why not just do ratings and have everybody play the same layout? And here's my thought process there. If we had like a par 2 course, if you ever seen one of those, it's more or less you throw your approach and then you hopefully drop in. If my son, I have 4 of them, but if my 6-year-old, okay, who actually shout out to him. Can I do that live right now? My 6-year-old
you
just
cannot
won.
boast about your own son.
Yeah. So everybody, I say everybody, a lot of people have seen or follow my son, who also has the name Hunter Graham. He's on Instagram and Facebook, and he has more followers than me. He's got thousands of followers. People love what he does. He has a putting world title for 8 and under. He's got a US title for 8 and under for putting, 3rd place at Worlds. But here's where I'm going. My 6-year-old just took down the 6 and under putting championship in the virtual league presented by Eagles Wings. Like, he's starting to come into his own as well. Okay, that was me bragging on my kid, but here's where interesting thought is go to like a par 2 course. What happens when my 6-year-old plays against Paul Macbeth on a par 2 course? All 18 holes are that. Is Paul going to get a very low rated round, or is my son who's 6 going to get a very high rated round? Because the reality is, once you play a course layout like that, there's not much room for obviously deviation in scores. So like, what do you think? Like, which way is it going to go?
I think it's gonna be met in the middle.
So
Especially if it's only them 2.
Yeah, right. I hate the ratings talk in the sense of no one actually understands. Hunter and I talked about this a few months ago. We all got into a serious debate about it. Is what are ratings in disc golf?
Okay, so I'm cutting you off so we can go to our next point. But that's literally what someone brought up is like, hey, why don't we go make it just ratings and no par? And I was kind of trying to get to that point is like, it's not good enough yet. Like, we can't do that. Okay.
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
One closing thought. Is about back to the people who like feel good when you shoot, 7 or 8 under at a course. The thing that I think disc golf is missing in that aspect, and I think the tees is one answer, but par becoming harder is another answer, is it gives you a goal. So like if you're playing ball golf or traditional golf and you're shooting from the white tees, then you're like, hey, I just broke 100 from the white tees. Now let me do it on the blue tees. Now let me do it on the black tees. There's a next step to get to. If I go out the local course here, Peaksview Park, it's a easy, everything's a par 3. I could shoot 15 under, right? So that's the only course I ever play. In my head, Paul's 15 under isn't impressive because of the par at this course, and that's the only course I play. So where is my motivation to go out there and get better? And if I'm an outside sponsor looking in, and I see people tearing up courses. Where is my motivation to be like, oh, well, if they're shooting 19 under, like 10 years from now, what is this sport going to be? It can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's done.
That's a good
So,
point. Yeah.
That's where my head's at with it.
No, that's a great point.
And so just to people in the boards, if they want to answer this, and I'll put it out to you guys, and we're wrapping this one up. We're gonna get a shirt that literally says that for me, is like we're done talking about this topic, and then like it says it like 10 minutes later, we're done talking about this topic.
And then you just rip it off, and it's still we're almost done talking about this topic.
Because that's how it goes. But I just want to put this question out because I had thought about it. Is par in golf is one thing, par in disc golf is another. But like, should we make holes that are you have to throw 2 nearly perfect shots to get birdie? Or should it be like you can mess up and still get birdie? Like, should those be out there? And I guess it goes back to course design theory. The person who's installing it, do they want to give them a little boost of motivation here and there? A couple, like we saw at the Majestic. If you watch the coverage, there's like they call it the jump putt hole. Like it's 110 feet long. So anyways, I don't know. Should you always have a chance at birdieing a hole if you mess up, or should you have to throw 2 nearly perfect shots to get your birdie? I think that would be cool if we made it way harder too.
Yeah.
But